Hello, class. Welcome to Face to Face with Mr. Ross, Part 3. And I'm going to talk about this extract from 1984 on the paper you wrote. Now, so we have this question: how does Orwell convey Winston's despair and O'Brien's fanaticism? Okay, he kind of does both at the same time. So we need to, focus on one of the criteria, which is showing sort of insights and meaning. Like you have to show you understand what's going what the extract is about. So here we have, Winston's being tortured, and then O'Brien is speaking to him. Well, just after a period of torture about the philosophy of the party and why Winston is there and what they're hoping to accomplish long term, or how they will be affecting Winston in the long term through all this torturous activities of torture. And there's a few strategies here going on in how we see how Orwell just sort of establishes Winston's sense of despair. For one thing, he sees himself as sort of inferior. Winston sees himself as intellectually inferior than O'Brien. He says in all ways he's larger than himself. Okay, so this metaphor of larger means not just physically, but also intellectually, mentally, perhaps in terms of confidence and character and whatnot. And so when he says, there's no idea he had that O'Brien had examined and rejected, this could be referring to perhaps O'Brien had critiques or criticisms of the party, thought about rebelling perhaps, but never did, rejected those ideas. And that makes Winston more inferior because O'Brien's gone past that stage. He's already rejected it. Whereas Winston was in the phase that's earlier, where he's thinking of challenging the system. That could be what the idea refers to, perhaps like a challenging the party, for example, with Big Brother. So he's thinking, well, maybe O'Brien had those ideas, but he's rejected them long ago. I've just recently come to them in the last year or so. This idea also that this metaphor of his mind contained Winston's mind. Okay, is an interesting metaphor. Again, meaning how much more intelligent he feels that O'Brien is compared to him. Okay, his brain is larger, or his range of thinking and scope of thinking and depth of thinking is larger. That's why we have the metaphor as mind contained Winston's mind. This is an example of writer's effects as well. Also adding to this despair, he says, do not imagine that you will save yourself. Well, what could cause more despair than that? So, we shall, he uses the word forever. You'll be changed forever. So if you say something, do not imagine that you will save yourself. Okay, and that you will be changed forever, and you never again will you feel such things as love, beauty, courage, and whatnot in that quote. Well, that would cause an incredible amount of despair. I mean, maybe Winston's thinking, I'm going to get perhaps tortured for a few weeks or months. They're just punishing me. It's hell. But then I'll go out and I'll just be the same person. I'll never rebel against the party, but I'll be the same person. No. He will be his humanity will thoroughly be destroyed. And we have language to use that as well, such as everything will be dead inside you. Okay, which is an interesting metaphor. His heart, his soul, his feelings, his thoughts. You will be hollow. Another interesting metaphor. Nothing is inside of you anymore. No hopes or dreams or inspirations. Another metaphor, we shall squeeze you empty. and fill you with ourselves. So he's going to be torn down, stripped apart, all of his beliefs, hopes, and spirits, and then just be what the party wants him to be and think how the party wants him to think. I think this is an allusion to brainwashing. So there is quite a bit of language here that supports that. And that also supports that this, of course, language like crush you, this kind of diction, referring to the torture that he's going to be receiving. So the key thing here is that maybe part of the despair is it's not just physical pain. It's one thing if you just get hit with a cane or whipped or tortured, but it's destroying the very essence of his soul, his spirit, of who he is. Okay, and so like I said, there's a lot of language there. There's also, he said, even if you lived 1,000 years, okay, you would not recover. So this example of hyperbole, again, emphasizing the point that this is not a temporary thing. If you live this hyperbole, if you lived 1,000 years, okay, that he will never be the same. Winston will never be the same because of his ordeal at the Ministry of Love. In terms of also, what goes in tandem is with O'Brien's fanaticism. So when Winston uses the phrase to describe O'Brien, such as, this lunatic enthusiasm, usually those two are just a bit contrasting. And he's not a hypocrite, and he believes it. And so we see that we see how committed and truly committed to the cause O'Brien is, which I think is also linked to despair too, because he now knows that how serious and committed O'Brien is to what he's doing to Winston. Okay, it's not just sort of half commitment, half believing in it. He thoroughly believes in this idea of torture and brainwashing, and as we said, filling them with ourselves. And so this is quite fanatical. And also, of course, the sense of O'Brien's fanaticism, in which he's so obsessed and committed with what he's doing that he's willing to go to those extremes to submit or subjugate somebody like Winston to just endless torture and electrocutions, and then the rats in the cage, and allow that to go on and be part of that for a long period of time, to destroy someone's spirit and their soul, is another a definite example of fanaticism as well. So you see here in this extract, there's quite a bit of interesting language to talk about that could have been explored. A lot of you are not really exploring the writer's effects that well. Okay, I don't know if a lot of you really mentioned how when O'Brien says such a things like if you lived 1,000 years, do not imagine that you will save yourself, how that just destroys any sense of hope that Winston could have at that point and causes him more despair. So these are key phrases, lines in the text that you need to pick out. And then from there go on to some of the language that I discussed. Okay, so now the good news is, really, this was a short extract. It was quite rich, but it was short. In the mock exams, in the final exams, you're going to get an extract that is at least twice as long. So you will have more plot, characterization to discuss, and there'll be more writer's effects to discuss. And so, but these are things you need to start digging out of these texts. Okay, maybe you're not reading the text. Maybe you need to read the text carefully twice. Make annotations, which I understand you couldn't make because I just gave you a file on iLearn. But there's not enough. What I've seen in class, there's not enough annotations and note-taking going on. You cannot write under pressure and be commenting quickly on the meaning of the extract, characterization, showing insights and making perceptive comments, and comment on writer's effects, looking at a blank page or a page with a couple of notes on it. Okay, you're going to be missing a lot, and it'll cause problems with organization. So please, we need to be much more thorough with annotations when we come back, whenever that is. Okay, thank you.